Hey there, friends. Imagine a chilly Montana morning, where a brave little girl named Clara and her mysterious wolf dog, Titan, are about to embark on a journey that'll warm your heart and remind you of the incredible bonds that can change lives. This is a true story of love, courage, and a DNA test that revealed a miracle, perfect for anyone who believes in the magic of second chances. If you love stories that inspire and bring us closer to nature, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single moment. Let's dive into Clara and Titan's unforgettable adventure. The morning air in the small town of Willow Creek, Montana, was sharp and cold, the kind that bites at your cheeks and makes your breath visible in the golden light of dawn. 7-year-old Clara Bennett stood frozen, her small frame trembling as the first gunshot echoed through the stillness. A sound so loud it felt like the sky itself had cracked open. A second shot followed, sending a flock of sparrows bursting from the pine trees that lined the edge of Pine Haven Sanctuary. Time seemed to stretch, each second heavy with dread, as Clara's wide blue eyes locked onto the scene unfolding before her. 3 men, dressed in dark hunting gear, their rifles catching the early sunlight, were moving toward the enclosure where Titan, a massive gray creature with fur like storm clouds, stood motionless. His piercing green eyes glowed with an intensity that made Clara's heart race. "Get back, kid," one of the men barked, his voice rough and urgent. "That thing's a killer." But Clara didn't budge. Her mother, Laura Bennett, who had been standing a few feet away, felt her stomach drop as she watched her daughter do the unthinkable. Instead of running away, Clara sprinted forward, her little boots kicking up dirt as she placed herself directly between the men and Titan's fence. The creature behind her was enormous, easily 5 times her size, with a presence that seemed to command the very air around him. Yet Clara stood firm, her voice ringing out with a fierceness that belied her age. "You can't hurt him," she shouted, her blonde ponytail bouncing with the force of her words. "He's my best friend." What happened next would not only change Clara and Titan's lives but also challenge everything the small community of Willow Creek thought they knew about the bond between humans and animals. It was a story that would ripple far beyond the Montana wilderness, touching hearts across America with its message of love, courage, and the unexpected miracles that can emerge from the most unlikely connections. If you're watching this story, I'd love for you to leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and let me know the city you're tuning in from. Now, let's dive deeper into this incredible journey. The Bennetts were the kind of family that folks in Willow Creek admired, hardworking, kind, and deeply rooted in their community. Daniel Bennett, a tall man with a quiet demeanor and hands rough from years of working as a mechanic, had built their cozy cabin on the outskirts of town with his own 2 hands. His wife, Laura, a schoolteacher with a warm smile and chestnut hair always pulled into a loose braid, spent her days shaping young minds at Willow Creek Elementary. Their life had been a steady rhythm of small-town routines, Friday night football games, Sunday church potlucks, and long summer evenings fishing at the nearby lake. That is, until Clara was diagnosed with a sensory processing disorder at the age of 5. The diagnosis came after months of worry. Clara had always been different, her parents noticed. She struggled with loud noises, often covering her ears at the sound of a car horn or a crowded room. She rarely spoke to anyone outside her family, and her interactions with other children were marked by a quiet withdrawal that broke Laura's heart. At school, while her classmates laughed and played, Clara would sit alone, drawing intricate pictures of animals in her notebook. Specialists explained that Clara's condition made it hard for her to process sensory input, leading to overwhelming anxiety in social settings. "She's not broken," the therapist had assured them gently. "She just experiences the world differently." The suggestion that followed was one the Bennetts hadn't considered. An emotional support animal might help Clara find a way to connect with the world on her terms. It was a chilly October day when the Bennetts visited a local animal rescue run by a man named Henry Dawson. Dawson's place was a sprawling property on the edge of town, filled with dogs of all shapes and sizes, each one looking for a home. "You're in luck," Henry had said with a grin, his weathered face lighting up as he led them to a small pen. "I've got one pup left from a litter I've been fostering. He's a bit of a mystery, but he's special." The moment Clara saw the tiny gray bundle of fur, something inside her shifted. For the first time in her life, she reached out without hesitation, her small hand trembling as the pup nuzzled against her. Laura noticed a small birthmark on Clara's wrist, a faint outline that looked remarkably like a paw print, something she'd always thought was just a quirky coincidence. Henry's eyes lingered on the mark for a moment, a strange look crossing his face. "That's quite a sign," he muttered, almost to himself, before quickly changing the subject. The Bennetts named the pup Titan. A name Clara chose because, as she whispered to her parents, he's going to be big and strong, like a superhero. They paid the adoption fee, a modest sum that seemed almost too good to be true, and brought Titan home. Those first few weeks were nothing short of magical. Clara, who had rarely spoken more than a few words at a time, began talking to Titan in full sentences. She giggled, a sound Laura hadn't heard in years, when Titan playfully tugged at her scarf. Daniel would find them napping together on the living room rug, Clara's tiny hand resting on Titan's soft fur. For the first time, Clara seemed to have found a friend who understood her in a way no human ever had. But as the weeks turned into months, Daniel began to notice things about Titan that didn't add up. The pup was growing at an alarming rate, his shoulders already reaching Clara's waist by the time he was 6 months old. His eyes, a striking green, seemed to follow every movement with a focus that felt almost too intelligent for a dog. And his ears, always upright, never floppy like the husky mix Henry had claimed he was, gave Daniel pause. Most troubling was Titan's behavior around food. He would growl, a deep, rumbling sound, whenever anyone but Clara came near his bowl. Laura confessed her own unease one night as they washed dishes together. "It's like he's always watching us," she said, glancing at Titan, who lay in the doorway, his massive head resting on his paws. "Like he's waiting for something." By the time Titan was 9 months old, the Bennetts could no longer ignore the truth. He weighed nearly 100 pounds, his frame muscular and powerful in a way that no domestic dog should be. Their local vet, Dr. Ellis, was baffled. "I've never seen a dog grow like this," he admitted, running a hand through his graying hair. "I think you might have a mix here, maybe something more than just a husky." Daniel's late-night research on the internet only deepened his suspicions. No dog breed grew this fast or developed such a commanding presence. Titan's jaws were strong enough to snap through the thick chew toys Daniel bought, and his growls had taken on a primal edge that sent shivers down Laura's spine. "We can't keep pretending," Daniel said one evening, his voice low as Clara slept upstairs. "Whatever he is, he's not just a dog." The food aggression became a serious concern. Titan guarded his meals with a ferocity that made feeding time a tense ordeal. Daniel built a special feeding area in the garage, using a sliding door to deliver food without direct contact. Only Clara could approach Titan while he ate, a fact that both amazed and terrified her parents. She would sit beside him, sometimes even holding out pieces of his food, which he accepted with a gentleness that seemed reserved only for her. Dr. Ellis referred them to a canine behavior specialist, Dr. Rachel Harper, who visited their home and observed Titan for several hours. Her assessment was direct and sobering. "This animal shows clear signs of being a wolf-dog hybrid," she said, keeping her distance from Titan as she spoke. "The territorial behavior, the way he avoids eye contact with strangers. The sheer size, it's not typical of a domestic dog. His jaw strength and instincts are more wolf than dog." Laura's heart sank. "Are you saying he's dangerous?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Not necessarily," Dr. Harper replied carefully. But high-content hybrids like this are often illegal to keep as pets in residential areas for a reason. As he matures, his wild instincts will become stronger. Given Clara's condition, I strongly recommend finding a sanctuary that can care for him properly. The words hit like a punch to the gut. Through the window, they could see Clara in the backyard. Her small hand resting on Titan's broad shoulder as she whispered to him. "She'll be heartbroken," Laura said, tears streaming down her face. "I know," Dr. Harper said softly. "But you have to think about her safety, and the safety of your community." That night, Daniel and Laura sat at their kitchen table, the weight of the decision pressing down on them. "Maybe we could move somewhere more remote," Laura suggested, her voice desperate. "Somewhere with more space, away from people." Daniel shook his head, his jaw tight. "We'd still be keeping a wild animal with our 7-year-old daughter. What if he turns on her one day? Could you live with that?" They sought second opinions, reaching out to Wolfdog experts and wildlife rehabilitators. The advice was unanimous: Titan needed specialized care that a family home couldn't provide. Telling Clara was the hardest thing they'd ever done. Her reaction wasn't the tantrum they'd feared, but a quiet, heartbreaking silence. "He's not dangerous," she whispered after a long pause. Her voice barely audible. "He's like me, different." The day they surrendered Titan to the county animal control was gray and dreary, the sky mirroring their mood. The officer who took Titan was kind but firm. "You're doing the right thing," he said as he secured a heavy leash around Titan's neck. "These animals don't belong in homes with kids." But as the officer led Titan to the van, Clara broke free from Laura's grip and ran to him, wrapping her arms around his neck. "You said we'd be together forever," she cried, her voice breaking as she looked at her father. It took both parents to pull her away, her small body shaking with sobs as Titan was loaded into the van. His green eyes stayed locked on Clara, his body tense with what looked like understanding. That night, after Clara had cried herself to sleep, Daniel sat in the living room, staring at the empty spot where Titan used to lie. "We did the right thing," Laura said, though her voice wavered. "Then why does it feel so wrong?" Daniel replied, his heart heavy with doubt. They had no idea that surrendering Titan would set off a chain of events that would challenge everything they believed about the bond between humans and animals, and lead to a discovery that would capture the hearts of people across the country. The county shelter where Titan was taken was a busy place, filled with the sounds of barking dogs and the hurried footsteps of overworked staff. It was also a high-kill facility, with a strict policy on animals deemed unadoptable. Wolfdog hybrids, regardless of their behavior, were considered too risky to rehome. Titan had just 72 hours before he would be euthanized. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Sarah Mitchell, a volunteer at the shelter with a passion for wildlife, noticed something different about the massive gray canine brought in that day. Where others saw a threat, Sarah saw a deep intelligence in Titan's green eyes, and a sadness that tugged at her heart. Against shelter rules, she made a call to Pine Haven Sanctuary, a refuge for wolves and wolfdogs located just outside Willow Creek. Pine Haven was the life's work of Elizabeth Carter, a former schoolteacher who had traded her classroom for a 40-acre sanctuary 20 years ago after rescuing a malnourished wolf pup from an illegal breeder. Over the years, Pine Haven had become a haven for 30 canids, animals too wild for domestic life but too domesticated to survive in the wilderness. When Sarah's call came through, Elizabeth was in the middle of a stressful meeting with her accountant, trying to balance the sanctuary's strained budget. "We're already over capacity," Elizabeth told Sarah, pinching the bridge of her nose. "We don't have the space or the funds." But Sarah's voice was insistent. "Please, just come see him. There's something special about this one. He's scheduled to be put down tomorrow morning." Elizabeth arrived at the shelter just before closing, her boots echoing on the concrete floor as the animal control officer led her to an isolation room. When the door opened, she stopped short, her breath catching in her throat. Titan rose to his feet with a grace that spoke of his wild heritage, his coat a striking mix of gray and silver. His eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. "Good Lord," she whispered. "He's incredible." The officer explained Titan's story. A family had kept him as a pet for 9 months. Believing he was a husky mix, but surrendered him after concerns about his size and behavior. "No one could mistake this animal for a dog," Elizabeth said, shaking her head. "Not with that build. Those eyes." She approached the enclosure cautiously, her years of experience with wolves telling her to keep her distance. But something about Titan's demeanor drew her closer. He watched her not with aggression, but with a quiet curiosity that was rare for a hybrid. "You're something special, aren't you?" she murmured. Within the hour, the paperwork was done. And Titan was on his way to Pine Haven, keeping the name Clara had given him, a decision Elizabeth made because it felt right. The transfer was smooth, with Titan remaining calm in the transport crate. His composure striking Elizabeth as unusual for a wolf dog in a new environment. The next morning, Dr. Michael Reed, Pine Haven's veterinarian, examined Titan. "I've never seen a hybrid like this," he admitted as he drew a blood sample. "His features are almost entirely wolf, but there's something about his behavior, his responsiveness. I'd like to run a full DNA panel." Elizabeth hesitated, aware of the cost. "We already know he's high content," she said. "Is it necessary?" Dr. Reed nodded firmly. "I've worked with wolves for 20 years. This one's different. We need to know what we're dealing with." 2 weeks later, the DNA results arrived, and Dr. Reed called Elizabeth into his office, his face a mix of shock and excitement. "You need to see this," he said, handing her a folder. Elizabeth's eyes widened as she read the report. Titan was 89% northwestern wolf, a rare and protected subspecies, with 7% Malamute and 4% German Shepherd. "He's not just a hybrid," Dr. Reed said. "He's almost pure wolf, a critically endangered subspecies. This is a legal issue as much as a biological one." The implications were staggering. Northwestern wolves were rarely found in captivity, and their protected status meant Titan's presence as a pet was a federal offense. Elizabeth immediately contacted the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, who sent an agent to the sanctuary the next day. "This is unprecedented," Agent Harper confirmed. "A protected wolf sold as a pet? We need to track down the breeder. This is a serious violation." News of Titan's true identity spread like wildfire. Local media ran stories with headlines like, "Family Pet Revealed as Endangered Wolf," and wildlife advocates called for an investigation into illegal breeding practices. The Bennetts were stunned. Laura called Pine Haven daily, her voice trembling with guilt and concern for Titan's well-being. Daniel faced potential legal scrutiny for unknowingly keeping a protected species. But the real impact was on Clara. Since Titan's departure, she had regressed dramatically. She stopped speaking, refused to eat, and retreated into the isolated world she'd lived in before Titan came into her life. Her therapist, Dr. Anna Carter, was deeply concerned. "She's experiencing this as a profound loss," Dr. Carter explained. "The bond she had with Titan was more significant to her emotional development than we realized." The Bennetts faced a heart-wrenching decision. Their life in Willow Creek, Daniel's steady job at the auto shop, Laura's teaching position, their close-knit community, was all they'd ever known. But Clara's decline was undeniable. After a sleepless night when Clara woke screaming for Titan, Laura and Daniel made a choice. "We have to move closer to him," Laura said, her voice firm despite the tears in her eyes. "Everything we've built is here," Daniel replied, his resolve weakening. "Everything except our daughter," Laura countered. They sold their cabin, Daniel found a buyer for his tools. and Laura requested a transfer to a rural school near Pine Haven. They bought a small house just 5 miles from the sanctuary, hoping proximity to Titan would help Clara heal. Elizabeth was hesitant when the Bennetts requested visitation rights. Wolves and high-content hybrids typically bonded quickly with their new pack, losing attachments to former owners. But Dr. Reed, intrigued by Titan's unusual behavior, supported the idea. Given Clara's condition and the strength of their bond, I think supervised visits could provide valuable insight, he told Elizabeth. The first visit was carefully planned, with Clara staying outside Titan's enclosure under strict supervision. No one expected what happened next. Titan, who had been recovering from a minor leg injury in the sanctuary's medical area, lifted his head the moment Clara approached. His ears pricked forward, and with visible effort, he stood and moved to the fence, a low, rumbling sound escaping his throat. Clara pressed her hand against the mesh. "I knew you'd remember me," she said, her voice clear and strong, the first full sentence she'd spoken in weeks. Titan nudged the fence where her fingers rested, his eyes softening in a way that left Elizabeth and Dr. Reed speechless. "I've never seen anything like this," Dr. Reed whispered. "This goes beyond typical wolf behavior." Elizabeth watched, her 20 years of experience with wolves suddenly feeling inadequate. The bond between Clara and Titan was unlike anything she'd ever witnessed, and it would soon challenge everything she thought she knew about the relationship between humans and wild animals. Little did they know, this connection would place Clara and Titan at the center of a controversy that would threaten not just their bond, but their very lives. The Bennetts' move to the rural area near Pine Haven Sanctuary marked a new chapter for the family. But it came with challenges. Their new home, a modest log cabin surrounded by towering pines, was a far cry from their cozy Willow Creek house. It had 2 small bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, and a wood stove that Daniel spent hours learning to manage during Montana's harsh winters. The cabin's biggest advantage was its location, just a 15-minute drive from Pine Haven, where Titan now lived. For Daniel, the transition was tough. His reputation as a skilled mechanic didn't carry over to this remote community, and he had to start over, taking odd jobs like fixing farm equipment and plowing driveways. Laura struggled too, adjusting to a new school with fewer resources and longer hours, often leaving Clara with Daniel in an unfamiliar place that still didn't feel like home. Money was tight. The quick sale of their Willow Creek home left them with debt, and they cut back on everything, growing their own vegetables, skipping family outings, and even foregoing the little treats they used to enjoy, like ice cream on Sundays. But every sacrifice felt worth it when they saw Clara's transformation. Each morning, she woke with the same question: "Can I see Titan today?" Pine Haven had set up a visitation schedule, starting with twice-weekly visits that soon became daily as Titan's remarkable response to Clara became clear. Dr. Reed documented every interaction, noting how Titan would lie calmly while Clara read to him from her favorite books, his green eyes following her every move with what staff described as devotion. Clara's connection with Titan seemed to defy logic. When she told him to stay, he would remain perfectly still, even when other wolves in the sanctuary howled in the distance. When she pointed to her own knee and whispered, "It hurts," Titan would gently nudge the same spot on his body, as if he understood her pain. Elizabeth, initially skeptical, made a bold decision. She designated Clara as a junior volunteer, allowing her supervised access to Titan's enclosure, a privilege usually reserved for trained adults. Daniel and Laura underwent extensive training, learning safety protocols and how to read Titan's body language. Clara, to everyone's amazement, took to the training with a focus that surprised even the sanctuary staff. "She understands him in ways I can't," Elizabeth admitted to Dr. Reed after watching Clara calmly redirect Titan from a territorial stance. "I've been doing this for 20 years. And I would have missed that." As Titan recovered from his leg injury, he was moved to a larger enclosure, and Clara helped with the transition. visitors to Pine Haven began noticing the unique bond between the girl and the wolf. Some were skeptical, whispering that it was dangerous for a child to be so close to a wild animal. Others were moved to tears, especially when they saw Titan gently take treats from Clara's hand while keeping his distance from other humans. Word spread, and local news outlets ran stories about the girl who talks to wolves, intending to highlight Pine Haven's conservation efforts. Instead, the attention sparked controversy. James Carter, a local rancher and member of the county board, wrote a scathing op-ed in the Willow Creek Gazette. "This sanctuary is putting a child at risk by letting her near a dangerous predator," he wrote. "Wolves don't belong in livestock country, where families like mine have fought for generations to protect our herds." His words struck a chord with many in the community, where distrust of wolves ran deep. A town meeting meant to discuss road repairs turned into a heated debate about Pine Haven's presence. "Those wolves are one broken fence away from killing our cattle, or our kids," one rancher shouted. A local business owner countered, "The sanctuary brings tourists and teaches our kids about nature. We need that." Sheriff Tom Ellis, caught in the middle, worried about his department's ability to handle an animal escape, but he also knew Pine Haven had a spotless safety record. He met with Elizabeth privately. "You're stirring up old fears," he warned. "People here have stories about wolves going back to the 1800s. And now with a child involved, folks are scared." The controversy grew when James Carter proposed a county ordinance banning dangerous predators within 25 miles of residential areas, a rule clearly aimed at Pine Haven. The community split, with some rallying behind Carter's call for safety and others defending the sanctuary's mission. Clara, unaware of the storm brewing around her, continued her visits, her speech and confidence growing with each interaction with Titan. She started carrying a notebook, jotting down observations about Titan's behavior. One day, she told Dr. Reed, "Titan's worried about the wolf with the black tail." The next morning, staff found that a female wolfdog with a black tail had indeed fallen ill overnight. Clara's pediatrician, Dr. Lisa Morgan, who had moved her practice to stay with Clara, noted her progress. "Her social skills have improved dramatically since she reunited with Titan," Dr. Morgan said. "It's not a cure for her sensory issues, but she's found a way to communicate through this bond." An unexpected ally emerged in the form of Samuel Whitefeather, an elder from the Blackfeet Nation who worked as a cultural advisor at the local museum. He reached out to Elizabeth after seeing a photo of Clara and Titan in the newspaper, noticing the paw-shaped birthmark on Clara's wrist. "In our traditions, such marks are sacred," he told Elizabeth. "We have stories of children chosen by wolves to bridge our worlds, gifted ones who can speak to both humans and animals." Samuel proposed a ceremony to honor Clara's connection with Titan. And after meeting with him, Daniel and Laura agreed. The ceremony took place at sunrise, with Samuel leading a simple ritual involving sage and a beaded bracelet for Clara. "The wolf has chosen you," he told her, placing the bracelet over her birthmark. "You must speak for those who cannot." Clara nodded, as if she'd always known. The ceremony might have stayed a private moment. But James Carter's son, a high school student named Ethan, filmed it from a distance for a school project. When James saw the footage, he used it to fuel his campaign against Pine Haven, claiming at a county meeting that the sanctuary was involving a vulnerable child in dangerous rituals. The accusation resonated in the conservative community, leading to protests outside Pine Haven's gates and calls to Child Protective Services. Sheriff Ellis tried to calm the tension. "The sanctuary is legal, and the parents have the right to make choices for their child," he said at a town hall. But the divide only deepened. As winter set in, Clara spent more time observing Titan and his new pack, which included Luna, a female wolfdog with similar genetics. Clara noted their growing bond, writing in her notebook, "Luna is teaching Titan how to be a wolf. He was too lonely before. Her observations were spot on. Titan's behavior improved with Luna's presence, though he still rushed to the fence whenever Clara arrived. Elizabeth, with the Bennets' permission, started an educational program featuring Clara as a junior presenter. Her first talk drew a small crowd of tourists, who were captivated by her simple explanation of Titan's life. When asked about her birthmark, she said, "It's how Titan knew me. It's how we found each other." The visitors were charmed, and donations began to trickle in, offering Pine Haven a financial lifeline. James Carter, frustrated by the sanctuary's growing support, pushed for an emergency vote on his ordinance. Sheriff Ellis spoke up at the meeting. "In 20 years, I've never had a single incident with Pine Haven's animals," he said. "But I've handled dozens of cases of stray dogs causing trouble. Maybe we're focusing on the wrong problem." The vote failed, and the hearing was set for mid-February. On February 10th, Clara and Laura arrived at the sanctuary early, eager to see Titan in the fresh snow. Clara noticed something strange: human footprints leading to the back of Titan's enclosure. "Mom, someone's been here," she whispered. Moments later, a gunshot rang out, followed by another. Clara broke free from Laura's grasp and ran toward the sound, her heart pounding as she reached Titan's enclosure. Through the trees, she saw two men in camouflage cutting the fence. Luna lay on the ground, blood staining her fur, while Titan stood over her, his teeth bared in a silent snarl. Before Laura could stop her, Clara screamed, a sound of pure anguish that froze the men in their tracks. Titan lunged through the gap in the fence, but as Clara ran into his path, he twisted mid-air, landing beside her and positioning himself between her and the rifleman. "Don't shoot!" Laura screamed. "There's a child." The men hesitated, then fled as Daniel and sanctuary staff arrived. Elizabeth and Dr. Reed rushed to Luna, finding her alive but injured. Titan stayed by Clara's side, his eyes flicking between her and Luna as the vet worked. Sheriff Ellis and his team caught the poachers, Mark Jennings and Carl Holt, within hours. They confessed to being hired to steal Titan's genetic material after his rare DNA was published in a scientific journal. Luna had been shot to distract Titan, but the plan went awry when Clara appeared. The incident shifted the community's perspective overnight. Headlines praised "Brave Girl Protects Endangered Wolf," and even James Carter's credibility took a hit when it was revealed one of his workers had tipped off the poachers. Titan was hailed as a hero for his restraint, with security footage of him avoiding Clara while shielding her from danger going viral. The February hearing ended with Pine Haven's permits renewed for 10 years. And the sanctuary emerged stronger than ever, a testament to the power of Clara and Titan's bond. In the aftermath of the poaching attempt, Pine Haven Sanctuary became a beacon of hope, drawing visitors from across the country who wanted to see the wolf and the girl who had captured the nation's heart. Clara's weekly presentations grew in popularity, her quiet confidence winning over audiences as she shared stories about Titan's life. Donations poured in, stabilizing the sanctuary's finances, and Elizabeth expanded educational programs to meet the demand. But beneath the surface, a new challenge was brewing, one that would test Clara and Titan's bond in ways no one could have predicted. It started with a routine vet check in April. Dr. Reed noticed Titan seemed unusually tired, his coat lacking its usual shine. Blood tests showed mild anemia, which Dr. Reed initially attributed to stress from the poaching incident. He adjusted Titan's diet and limited his public appearances, but the symptoms persisted. Clara, with her uncanny connection to Titan, told her parents, "Titan's light feels heavy." Her words prompted more tests, and in May, a specialist confirmed the worst: Titan had an aggressive form of hemangiosarcoma, a cancer of the blood vessels. Without treatment, he has maybe 3 months, the specialist, Dr. Karen Ellis, said. With surgery and chemo, we might get 6 months, but it would be palliative, not a cure. The news devastated the Bennetts and the sanctuary staff. Titan wasn't just an animal, he was the heart of Pine Haven, a symbol of conservation, and Clara's lifeline. "We have to try everything," Laura said, her voice firm. "Clara needs him." Telling Clara was harder than they expected. She listened quietly as Laura explained Titan's illness, then said, "His blood is sick. I've been drawing it." Her notebook was filled with sketches of distorted blood cells. Eerily accurate despite her never having seen a medical image of cancer. Dr. Morgan, consulted about this, suggested Clara's deep bond with Titan might allow her to sense changes in his condition before they were visible. Titan underwent surgery in Bozeman, where the main tumor was removed, but the cancer had spread. Chemo began, but it weakened him, and Clara refused to leave his side, sleeping in the vet hospital's waiting area and drawing intricate diagrams of blood vessels. In June, Luna gave birth to 5 pups, all bearing Titan's gray coat. Despite his illness, Titan showed gentle interest in his offspring, a bittersweet moment for the sanctuary. As summer progressed, Titan's condition worsened, but Clara remained his constant companion, sitting by him during his good days and resting quietly beside him when he was too tired to move. Then, in July, Dr. Ellis noticed something alarming about Clara. She looked pale, with dark circles under her eyes that couldn't be explained by lack of sleep. Laura admitted Clara had been tired and had occasional nosebleeds, which they'd attributed to stress. Dr. Morgan ordered tests, and the results were devastating. Clara had acute myeloid leukemia, a rare blood cancer. The parallel illnesses felt like a cruel twist of fate. Titan's chemo was stopped due to his decline, and Pine Haven's medical area was adapted to accommodate both Clara and Titan during her outpatient treatments. Dr. James Carter, Clara's oncologist, consulted with Dr. Ellis, noting the unusual nature of their shared conditions. Dr. Carter proposed an experimental treatment, a bone marrow transplant using a donor with specific genetic markers. The odds of finding a match were slim, but he suggested testing Titan's DNA against Clara's, hypothesizing that their bond might indicate a rare compatibility. The idea seemed far-fetched. But with both Clara and Titan fading, the Bennetts agreed. Meanwhile, Henry Dawson, the man who had given Titan to the Bennetts, arrived at Pine Haven with a shocking revelation. "I'm not a breeder," he confessed. "I'm a geneticist. For 40 years, I've protected rare wolf bloodlines. Titan comes from a lineage we call spirit wolves, wolves with a genetic marker that allows them to form deep bonds with certain humans who carry a matching marker. Clara's birthmark isn't a coincidence. It's a sign of that connection." Henry showed them a journal from his great-uncle, a biologist who had documented these wolves in the 1930s. "The human partners often have a paw-shaped mark," he explained. "Their bond is so deep that their health can be linked. If one gets sick, the other often does too." Samuel Whitefeather, who had joined the meeting, added, "Our stories speak of children marked by wolves, sharing one spirit. Their lives are tied together." The genetic tests confirmed an unprecedented match. Titan and Clara shared a rare marker, making Titan a viable donor for Clara, and Clara for Titan. The groundbreaking procedure took place in August at a specialized facility in Bozeman. 2 surgical suites were prepared. One for Clara and one for Titan, with teams of human and veterinary specialists working together. The 6-hour operation involved a cellular exchange, with Clara and Titan under sedation. The night before, Samuel led a healing ceremony, blending Blackfeet traditions with the Bennetts' own beliefs, a moment of unity that brought hope to everyone involved. The days after the procedure were tense. But on day 4, Dr. Carter reported early signs of success. "Their markers are improving in tandem," he said. "It's working." By October, both Clara and Titan were stable. Clara returned home, continuing outpatient care, while Titan rejoined Luna and his pups at Pine Haven, his coat regaining its shine. Henry's legal issues were resolved with a plea deal, and his research helped advance wolf conservation. Pine Haven launched the Spirit Bond Initiative, a research program studying human-animal connections, funded by global donations. 5 years later, a celebration marked the milestone. Clara, now 12, spoke to the crowd with Titan by her side. "Titan showed me that being different is what makes us special," she said. "We're stronger together." As they walked into the sunset, their bond, a miracle of science and love, reminded everyone that the deepest connections can heal us in ways we never thought possible. The story of Clara and Titan teaches us a powerful lesson: sometimes the deepest connections in life come from the most unexpected places, transcending differences and reminding us that love and understanding can bridge any gap, whether between a little girl and a wolf dog, or between people in our own lives. It's a beautiful reminder to embrace what makes us unique and to cherish the bonds that help us grow, heal, and find our place in the world. What did this story teach you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what moved you the most, or share a special bond you've experienced in your own life. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more heartwarming stories that celebrate the magic of connection.